And action. And welcome everybody. This is PnP Weekly episode 150. It is 24th of January 2022. So I needed to actually check the year from here. It's pretty crazy. Now, just to confirm, it's 76th of March 2020, right? 765th of March 2020,
yes.
Whatever. So welcome to PnP Weekly. In the PnP Weekly, we'll talk about the latest on the Microsoft 365 as a whole. We cover the latest news across the different main products and areas, and also community news. And typically, we also have a visitor. My name is Vesa Juvonen. I'm a principal program manager in the Microsoft 365 platform side of the house, and with me as a co-host is Waldek. Who are you?
Hi, everybody. My name is Waldek Mastykarz, and I am Cloud Developer Advocate for Microsoft 365 at Microsoft.
Excellent. That went actually really well. So 115th time to charm. Right?
Yes.
So
it takes
today,
a while.
Exactly. For simple person, it takes a while to learn the basics. Now,
today I learned. I'm a simple person. There you go.
There we go.
These calls are so educating.
You're welcome. We aim to please. Now, so today
we are here the whole week.
Today, our visitor is Anoop Tatti from Content+Cloud. Used to be Content & Code, which got merged with somebody, changed to be Content & Cloud, which is now merged with somebody, but it's still independent, at least for UK for now. And Anoop is a relatively recent MVP. I have no idea what I'm talking anymore. MVP, I think from November or December. So we kind of touch his career, his work, day-to-day work, and what it means to get to be an MVP. So let's jump on that discussion first, and then we'll come back on the articles. Let's do that. So welcome, Anoop, for joining us on the PnP Weekly, episode 150. It is 24th of January, which we probably said already in the intro, but we are recording this always on Monday and releasing them on Tuesday. But now, Anoop, you are a fresh MVP and you're a developer. Can you talk about who are you and what do you actually do? So.
Yeah, sure. First of all, Hiva iltapäivää, Vesa. Guten Tag, Waldek.
That was German. I'm not in Germany.
Oh, I Googled, I Googled it.
Yeah, that's German.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that.
That's true. Guten Tag.
It's okay.
Yeah.
So is it not Guten Mittag?
Well, Mittag. Yeah, fair enough. So depending the way you say it, like it can sound a bit more German, it can sound a bit more Dutch, but
okay, all right, okay. I blame Google then. So,
well, surprisingly, you had less trouble with Finnish than with Dutch. Like I would totally expect it being like the other way around.
Oh,
that's true. That is true.
Anyways,
yeah. So, welcome, Anoop. So can you do a quick intro as who you are?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Anoop Tatti. I'm a SharePoint developer architect here in Content+Cloud, based in London, UK. And I've been working with Content+Cloud for about 4 years and 3 months now, I think. Yes. Yeah. And I got my MVP award recently, just a couple of months back.
Yeah.
So yeah,
congratulations
that's
on that.
Me.
So yeah.
Thanks.
Now, let's come back on the London. Is actually interesting because I know probably other people want to understand how the London actually works nowadays as well. But because of the pandemic situation and changes,
subway and roads, and there are buildings. How London works?
Yeah, that's true. That is the subway, yes. But can you talk about a bit, Anoop, what do you actually do for day-to-day basis? What does it mean that you're a developer and architect? So what kind of things you do?
Yeah, so it basically involves things involved in the project from end to end. So I gathering the requirements from the customer, analyzing those requirements, and then coming up with the design of the solution first, and then getting the design approved, implementing the solution, and then testing, and then finally releasing it to production. based on, and then throughout the phase there'll be like fixing bugs and things like that, and also improvements and changes as and how things proceed. So yeah, I try to be involved in all the phases, but my main input comes from from requirement gathering to the end of development, and after on I pass it to the other team members, or be involved in the other phases as well.
Yeah.
So yeah,
and that is an interesting point, right? Because like you call yourself dev, but you're basically a one-man band. Like you're doing requirements, you're talking to customers, you're building the thing, architecting, designing it, releasing it. Like it's a whole, you're doing everything. So is that a typical thing at the company where you work, where developers are really that broadly oriented, or is it just you because of your experience?
So it depends on the type of the project actually, and the amount of work. So let's say if it's a very large project, then different people are involved in different phases. Whereas for smaller projects, it's usually one man army, and or one woman army. So yeah, that's how it works in our company. So it's mainly on the size of the projects, and that decision gets taken by my manager, Kevin, whom you have spoken to. Yes.
Yeah. Now the company name is Content+Cloud, so we can kind of assume that you're doing stuff for cloud. What kind of things are those solutions?
Would you?
So the development with respect to the development team, our main development is mainly around SPFX and Teams related development, but there are other teams who are involved in different aspects of Azure. So we've got a technology enablement team who are heavily involved in architecting things related to Azure, as in for clients. And on those lines. However, on the development in the development team, it's mainly SPFX development related to Teams and Azure functions, and things like that.
Yeah, because Azure function is the way of then actually doing larger operations for sure. But now related actually on that one, I guess it's always interesting. Any scenarios, what kind of things are you implementing in SharePoint Framework? So what are those things? So SPFX is a pretty broad technology. So what kind of things are customers asking people to do nowadays?
So the one customer that I'm working with currently, I've been with them for a long time now, maybe a couple of years. They like customization in their SharePoint pages with SPFX web parts. So the requirements are, very customized for that customer. So this involves something like bringing data from different data sources like lists or libraries and displaying them in a nice manner, using the PnP search web parts quite heavily in order to get back the search results and display them as and how required. And apart from that, the other SPFX web parts involve communicating with Azure functions, and then getting the data from the different LOB systems. So yeah, it's mainly that. And what happens is, as and how we finish a project, there's a new project which comes up with, again, custom requirements. And all of those we try to achieve using the SPFX web parts as much as possible. And we do use out-of-the-box web parts, but not all of them satisfy the needs, and that's why we have to customize. So yeah, it's mainly web parts and application customizers.
Cool.
Yeah.
And what's your feedback related on SPFX? You're happy with it? No.
Yes.
This is a wrong obviously audience to criticize that stuff too hard. But one is your kind of an objective feedback related on that. And how could Microsoft improve that?
Right. For me, I like working with SPFX, and with whatever we have currently, it fits the need for us. So we've been working with SPFX for quite a few years now, and we are achieving the requirements. And whenever there are any issues that I face, I try to log them in GitHub. And I do get feedback on what is going on with those. So it's with respect to feedback, I like SPFX, and I like working on SPFX web parts. So all okay from my side.
There are no big rocks improvements, like, I don't know, let's say you want to have a new way to create project or be able to bring your own templates or use different tooling, or I don't know, nothing big, extraordinary that you might have seen, I don't know, somewhere else, like Next.js or somewhere else in the developer world?
No, I've been mainly using React for all the development, and all the concepts that are available in React, all the new concepts, we can use them in SPFX. And there are again a lot of there's a lot of training materials / videos from the PnP community. So yeah, it's all good. So I mean, yeah, if maybe in the future, when if there's any feedback, I'll definitely have a look. But yeah, I haven't worked on other frameworks as such. So at the moment, I can't give any feedback.
Well, so maybe related to that, and that would be probably the last thing we ask in this space. Like, imagine, or maybe you have an experience like onboarding new colleagues to SPFX, like folks who have never worked with SPFX. How do they go about it? How do they look at it? Like, do they really need to learn a lot of specific and new things that don't exist anywhere else? Or is it like, like I can build on the web and this is just a framework with a few things I need to learn, but other than that, it's just the same experience that I already have? Is it more of one or the other?
So, recently I was speaking to a friend who just has web development background and didn't know much about SharePoint Framework, or he had heard of SharePoint. So I explained to him, this is how we work on an SPFX web part. Quickly spun an SPFX web part and showed it to him, and he was quite comfortable with that because he has been doing working on web development technologies. It was quite easy for him to consume the information, and he was able to understand what was going on. Of course, there were some points I had to explain, but that's just you have to learn those if you want to start developing the SPFX. If you have some web development background, then it's quite easy to pick up. For me personally, it was the other way around, because I've been working on SharePoint, mainly like non-SPFX, basically. So on-premise and server side. So I had to learn some of these technologies, but there were a lot of PnP videos, a lot of videos from the community, a lot of articles from the community, a lot of information basically from the community, which helped me pick up these things. And I mean, at the moment, like I said, if you have web development background, it's quite easy. So one of my friends had that, and he could easily pick it up. And even if you don't have that, then there is a lot of material available, and we can easily learn developing on SPFX or using SPFX. Yeah.
For sure. I think we have a lot more than 500 samples nowadays available, which is like, it's almost too much. So, and thank you, Anoop, for being one of the persons who's contributing on the samples, because those for sure help people to learn how to do things. So for sure. Now, can we talk about a bit your background? So we talked about before we started recording that you haven't actually born in UK. So can you talk about why did you move to UK? Where did you come from?
Yeah, sure. So I'm basically from India, and I was born and brought up there, and I started working in India. I started working with SharePoint 2007. So and then those were the days. I think I still remember the first thing I was working on was we used to create like internet sites, or websites using SharePoint. So
of course,
I think me and Waldek are both specialists on that. With our background, we've done it as well. So countless of .com sites on SharePoint.
Yeah.
Nice.
Good old days, right?
Yeah. So that was one of my first projects, and after that, I came to the UK to study. So I completed a course in business management, and then moved on to a consultancy firm here in the UK. After that, I've been just working in the SharePoint space. So coming to I think I came to the UK about 9 or 10 years back, and since then I've been after my studies I've been working here.
Yeah.
So cool. That's my background.
On the London, I wanted to ask this because, of course, London. I love London because London is just absolutely beautiful city and it works, and the underground system just magically operates itself always. Typically, well, there's always some maintenance here and there, but anyway, so that's every discussion. But the past 2 years, is it really been slowing down? So are you been working remotely? Is everybody working remotely then from home? And that would then mean that the CD areas and the office areas and all of that would be pretty much empty. Is that the case, or how has it been?
So most of them have been working from home, at least in our office, as in my workplace, where people have been working from home. But my wife, she started going to the office, I think last year sometime, and she goes 3 days to the office and then 2 days she works from home. So there are companies who are doing that as well. I have been to the office, I think, just a very few times, once or twice. So when I went there, it was okay. It was not as crowded as it used to be. It was very, very quiet. So bit different. I think from this week, the restrictions are lifted again. So people will start going to offices. From next week, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just hard to imagine London being slow and not around a lot of people. It's just there's so much movement always in London. So
but I guess isn't it the same for every big place on Earth where we're affected by COVID, pandemic, and all of that? Like, wouldn't that be the same for, I don't know, Madrid or Paris or Amsterdam or New York? I don't know.
Of course. Absolutely. For me, London is just vivid memories on how it actually works. And when I flew there to save some companies around their SharePoint problems and all of that stuff when I was young.
SharePoint problems?
Yes.
What do you mean?
There's never problems.
There are no SharePoint problems.
Yes. I literally, there was one case which basically my phone rang like 9 p.m. on the evening, and it was basically, you need to be at the London City in this whatever law firm tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. UK time. It's like, okay, cool. So
good to know. I can pack my bag.
They had escalated on the right highest enough level on the organization, and then because I was the European SharePoint Ranger, I got called on. Go save. Okay, fine. So.
And you went anyway, and you saved, right?
And I guess it was fine. It was more about actually showing up and drinking coffee and making them smile. So so making people feel that we appreciate them. And
so who did all of the work?
I guess I did the work as well, but still.
While drinking coffee and talking, it's like,
exactly. Exactly.
Reset. Have you tried to turn it off and on again?
And poof, it all worked. So
there you
thank
go.
God you flew over. So
thank you.
I can't remember the company's name, but that was one of the kind of weirdest cases wherever I worked as a SharePoint Ranger, because there was a lot of on-premises challenges around the large car manufacturers in Germany and then the oil refiner companies and all of that stuff. So come here, save. Okay, fine. I'll just drop everything and then fly over. London is just, I just love the city. So it's just absolutely awesome. So.
Yeah. On that note, another thing I wanted to ask, like, on the background, for those who cannot see, there is this little crystal with a slanted blue piece on it, saying that you are an MVP. Right? So you became an MVP. You've been around, you said, since 2007, 2008, right? Is that right? Building SharePoint?
2009, yeah, late 2008.
9, yeah, fair enough. So you've been around for a while.
Yeah.
You've just become an MVP.
Yeah.
What changed? Anything changed or not?
So it's been a couple of months now, and after being an MVP, I have attended a few calls, the MVP related calls, and we can't speak about them because it's NDA. There have been those calls have been very interesting and helpful as well. But before becoming an MVP, I was contributing to the PnP repositories and attending a few demos, and also delivering a few sessions in other community groups. So I have been doing that. I'm continuing to do that. So with respect to the change, it's mainly been those calls and getting more and more information, that's mainly it. And I think that as part of MVP, we get to try a few of the third-party products. So I have one of them is GitKraken. I use that quite a lot. So
okay.
Been using that.
Okay.
Yeah, I've got a pro license for that now. So
yeah. So some benefits, of course, on it, and then I guess the MVP goals are kind of good to get some sort of an insight on what's coming and what's happening, and a access on information, like I said. So that's kind of the thing what we are for sure providing for MVPs. So, which we should probably do even more, but that's always. Balancing out the work and balancing out the information sharing and communications, everything. It's hard. So,
and maybe another thing I wanted to ask, because that's like I know different folks experience it in different way, and I recall back when I became an MVP way back when, like it was the first thing was
right
like a
Normandy
very big thing. Yeah, exactly. So it's been 84 years.
79.
Like
that's what the gray hair is all about.
Then, exactly. It's called experience, right?
Yes.
Back then, like the two things were different in a way. Like the first one, like the group of MVPs wasn't as big as it is now. And it wasn't like it wasn't as easy to get in touch with others. And there was this first thing that I recall that like having that access to that group of folks, like that was really a cool thing because you got to learn from them even though you wouldn't work together with them, right? So there was a really great experience. And I wonder, how do you experience that part of it, like getting in touch, like building up network of other MVPs and getting in touch with them? Is that a simple thing to do now that we are more connected, or is it not as simple because, well, you're a new person and everybody else knows everybody, which might not even be the case, but still, like being the new person, is it easy to get in touch with other MVPs or not?
I mean, for me personally, the PnP community has helped quite a lot to get in touch with MVPs. So because of the demos that we have every week, and then the PnP weekly calls where we get to know about different articles published by MVPs. So you get to know that there are people working in this space and there are MVPs who are doing certain things.
We should check those out.
Yeah.
Taking a note for myself.
So yeah, for me, the community, getting in touch with MVPs has been easy because of these community interactions. You tweet them, they reply to you. Even Vesa replies. So when you ask questions,
communicating. Why? Wow. That's the thing. So what I'm trying to say is, getting in touch with MVPs. There are a lot of avenues now, and the MVPs are there to help, and they always help. So yeah, that has been the case, cool. And I have seen. I have a lot of examples of that. That's how it has been.
But like you said earlier, it was not the case. To get in touch with an MVP would have been, I think, would be different. But now it is, it is much simpler.
Makes sense. Makes absolutely sense.
Because earlier, I think you would post a comment on the blog articles written by MVPs, and then you would get replies to those, and that was one way of communicating. But now that is not the only way. There are other avenues.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess it is also like the difference is like if you are not an MVP and you post a comment when you're just one person on the internet asking stuff, but then once you become an MVP, then you are one of them. And that, at least for me, I experienced that kind of changes dynamics in how people look at you, because now they see like, hey, you're also an MVP and you're a part of this group, as opposed to just being another person asking stuff, right? Because like we see all of the, and maybe that is also, I wonder if that could be related in any way to the fact, like in any community, we have this 99-1 rule, right? Where 90% of folks just take and they don't ask, don't comment, don't like, just come, get their problem fixed and leave. Then there's the 9 who interact with you, and then there's 1% that actually engages with you and helps to improve things, right? And I wonder to what degree, because if you are just on their blog and asking stuff, maybe you're a part of the 90 or maybe just even the 9 part, but not the 1. Whereas you're with them, you're like, oh yeah, now you went through the same hoops that we do. You help others, so that why we are more inclined to help you and engage with you. So I wonder if that is also a part of that experience or not.
Yes, I mean, I don't know. For me, it's been mainly the case of so whenever I interact with MVPs or anyone else in the community, the interaction has always been good and helpful. So as in, if I've asked questions, I have gotten replies. So that's my experience. And I do the same as well. Whenever there are questions in the articles that I write, I respond to all of them. So, yeah, to answer your question, Waldek, I guess I need to be in this space for some more time, and maybe after that I'll come to know what it is. So because it's just been 2 months now, so
right.
I guess maybe. Yeah.
And of course, as you are helping the others, people are more inclined to help you as well, because that's just realities of life.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, as an example, so I get like a gajillion amount of messages in a gajillion amount of different systems, like from LinkedIn to WhatsApp to messengers and people asking things. But if the question comes from a person who helps you and the others as well, then of course you are much more positive on trying to find the time to answer that. So you prioritize those questions and those people who've been helping others, rather than those who you never heard of, except when they need to answer from you. So it's like, well, those, unfortunately, because there's only 24 hours in a day, you need to prioritize your time. So
yeah.
It's hard. A bad related on this one, but it just came to my mind. So one of the reasons why I moved to Microsoft in my previous job, which is now 15 years, which is crazy, was the fact that I came to be the person from whom everybody was asking questions in that company. And then I moved to Microsoft, and my intention was I can never be the person.
Everybody's asking stuff from me, like nothing has changed. So the problem is there, not
the
here.
Problem is, but it is problematic for MVPs as well. So it's not like if the MVP doesn't answer back, for example, it might be that they're just busy, because again, being an MVP doesn't give you money. It's not an income thing. We all have our day job as well. So.
Well, it is a job, absolutely, because you could argue, right, that it doesn't affect the income, because there are ways to, like,
of course,
it can affect. Like I know people it can, right, but it isn't a job. Like you don't have an SLA on, hey, you are an MVP now, so now you are under this SLA when you're supposed to answer anything people throw at you within X hours. That's not the case, right? And I mean, maybe to clarify a little what I meant, I didn't mean it in that MVPs are arrogant towards folks whom they do not know. right? So I didn't mean that. MVPs are MVPs because they're helpful. They prove time and again that they are willing to help others. Like, so that is like already out of the gate, like that is a fact. Well, what I meant more is that once you're an MVP yourself, you get to know people more beyond just the question and answer you might get on the internet, on blogs and forums.
Yeah.
So that was the aspect that at least for me, that was what changed after I became an MVP, right? Because like you got to meet with them in different venues, different times and so on, right? Beyond just the question and answer interaction that you might have on Twitter or their blog.
Correct. Yeah. But for me, what had happened was in the community, at least in office development, it's so interactive that you know these MVPs before before I became an MVP. I had interacted with a lot of MVPs like Chris Kent, Dave Warner, Hugo. So although they are based in US and UK, and so all these interactions were already done. So
right.
But now for me, the thing is, I think I'm hoping to get to know MVPs in the other space, because in the office development is it's like you are in the calls. So you are basically in touch with them in one or the other way, but MVPs in the other space, that's what I'm hoping to see in the coming years, getting in touch with the MVPs in the other domains.
Yeah, makes perfect sense. Now, from a timing perspective, let's do a few rounds of your top 3 to 5 whatever points, because I wanted to ask a few things from your perspective as well. So first of all, what would be your kind of tips on for people who would be looking into a career in development? So doing stuff what you do for a living. So how do you get to do that? What are the tips? How do you get to be a developer architect in Content+Cloud?
Right. So firstly, it's mainly SharePoint and or Office related development. That's what we do in the development team, and the main thing would be interest in the web development space, and then also the interest in the SharePoint space. So yeah, that's what our team focuses on, SharePoint teams development and Office development related concepts. And contribute a lot to the community and learn a lot from the community, because that helps you in all aspects. So that's what I would say.
That's for sure. There's multiple channels, and we've been trying to improve that a lot within the past years as well. So making it easier for people to contribute and being involved. What about if somebody is a kind of a developer and architect and wants to be an MVP? Is that the same answer, or what's your tips on that?
Right. So for me, at least, it was we have Chris O'Brien working at Content+Cloud. So I used to. So I asked him to mentor me in this process, and I got information from him and took help from him. Having said that, once I submitted the application, the MVP, I don't know what the MVP manager in the UK. Claire, even she helped me with with different aspects. So help will always be available, but the main thing is you have to do your bit, right, to become the MVP, which involves helping the community in one or the other way, be it blogs or videos or whatever it is, maybe delivering some sessions. So yeah, that's. So as and how you learn things, try to share that in one or the other way. And once you start sharing more and more, you can think about becoming an MVP, because as and how you learn, or as and how you learn and you share, you keep learning more and keep sharing more. So that's the ultimate formula, I believe. So learn more, share more, care more.
Yeah, that's actually really good. Learn more. Yeah, that's really good. So, and then of course, to be an MVP, it has to be an existing MVP or Microsoft employee, which is nominating the person. So, as you're contributing and as people are contributing, then you get to know people, and then you have those connections, and then people are basically more willing to submit the candidate or submit the person to be an MVP, and then it's all about dealing with the submission and all of that. But connections we can easily do with open source and community because those channels do exist, which is good. So, and I know you've been really fundamental on sharing stuff. If we go to the adoption, the sample unified sample gallery and check your name, there's like tens and tens of samples available immediately. So thank you for that. It's super valuable, and also helping with maybe that's a final topic to kind of touch. You've been actually building a lot of the Microsoft Viva ACES extensions. Is that a real customer demand already at this point, or is it just getting ready for the future demand?
So the current customer that I'm working with, I have shown them a few samples, and there is some interest in that. But yeah, they have to agree with their stakeholders and then start implementing that. So currently, that's what I've been using those samples for, just to showcase what we can do with Viva connections and how they can be used. But I'm sure in a few weeks or a few months down the line, we will be implementing those for some of our customers. So yeah, there is definitely a lot of interest on those Viva connection ACES, and yeah, looking forward to implementing those in the customer projects.
Yeah, then it's kind of understandable. It went GA in November. It will take at least 6 months for people to get the budgeting and all of that ready to hey, oh, this is an interesting option. Let's actually create our corporate mobile portal and think about these things in a different way. So, but cool. I think that's it pretty much for now. Anoop, Waldek, any last questions?
Questions? No, absolutely not. No. Let's take care of timing for our guest. As I said, Anoop, thank you again for everything that you do for our community and help others. That is appreciated really, really much. And I guess it's a really great thing to see how the work you do affect others and empowers others to do things on Microsoft Cloud. So for that, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, same here. Thank you very much, you both, for helping the community and for what all you have done. And that I've taken inspiration from you guys and from the other community members. So yeah, thank you once again, you both as well.
Thanks, Anoop. Thanks. And for those who are watching, listening on the show, the next will jump into the weekly articles. But thank you, Anoop, one more time, and we'll be absolutely in touch.
Okay, great stuff. Cheers. Thanks.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.
And welcome back. This is Helsinki Calling. Now, thank you, Anoop, one more time. So for a great discussion, it's always good to catch up on what's happening. Anoop is for sure one of those persons who's been actively involved and contributing awesome samples throughout the years. So we'll certainly add links to the blog posts related on this PnP Weekly on his samples, because they're actually available from the Unified Sample Gallery really easily. So that's a good way of doing that as well. Now that I'm saying that, we can actually start from there just for the sake of it. So into articles, because that's the right way of doing that. And before I share my screen, this is how well we're prepared. So
we are. I mean, it is live. We're recording, and maybe the next time we need to do also a stream, so that if you have nothing to do for an hour or so, like you can join us live, see us.
Yeah, but then they would actually see how well we prepared this stuff.
Well, and that's what's wrong with that. Like we're human, right? Are we?
True.
We are, right?
We are, yes. I'm actually a hologram, but I'm just showing off for you. I'm not real. So let's actually start from here, because the sample solution gallery is the easiest way to actually show and find what people have been contributing across the Microsoft 365 areas. This includes Microsoft samples and also community samples. And in the case of Anoop, it's just really easy to do Anoop Tatti in here. And we can find the sample from Anoop, or we can click Anoop's name, and that's going to then load a bit different perspective on the samples. And he has really submitted multiple samples for the community on different scenarios, different things throughout the year. So really, really cool. Oldest one from 2018, and the newest one is actually from this year. Yeah, no, last year actually. But I know that there's pending samples already on other ones. So really, really cool stuff. And on the adaptation on the unified sample gallery, of course, you can then go to the GitHub and download the sample, or access the sample, or download just the sample from GitHub as well. So really cool way of finding what's relevant for you. So that was a quick promo on the unified sample gallery. But let's move into the articles of this week. So we'll start with a monthly update from Chris McNulty around the latest on Viva topics, updates and year-end recap. And basically, this is just a recap on the upcoming features, which are in the roadmap coming in the early 2022, like Yammer integration, Outlook integration, people profile cards, syntax taxonomy for generating topics, GCC. So GCC is the governmental cloud, so the topics will be available there as well pretty soon in US, which is pretty cool as well. And topics is already available in Viva Connections as part of the GA of the Viva Connection, so it was lighted up in there, and there has been a lot of improvements on that side as well. So really, really cool, good summary, and references to the roadmap items as well. Thank you, Chris, on that. Let's go then to the next one, which is Lee Ford.
Yeah, so Lee wrote an article about how to make a bot for simple interactions in Teams with a webhook, right? So when you think about Teams, there are different types of apps you can build, right? We have bots, we have messaging extensions, webhooks, incoming hooks, and there are also different ways to implement bots, right? You can have bots that you start interactions with, but you can also have bots that are proactive. So a bot reaches out to you. So with all the different types of apps, Lee took one example scenario that you can implement with this approach.
Yeah, really good stuff, and a nice detailed blog post for testing things. What do you need to do, and how do you configure things to really have that functionality then up and running? And good to have a GIF animation as well. And there's the weather from London. So really, really cool stuff. Thank you, Lee, on that. Now, the next blog post is from Shursti Shah, sorry for the pronunciation, and it's quickly set up a Viva Connection app in Microsoft Teams using Teams Admin Center. So basically, recapping the steps, how to get started on enabling the Viva Connection app in the Microsoft Teams, which is something, it's kind of a special thing, so to say, because it is its own application, but then you can configure that to be specific for your company. So there's a configurable, editable experience on that. But he walks through the required steps on creating a home site and enabling the global navigation, going to the admin center, finding the right Viva Connection application, personalizing that to be something else, and enabling that to be available. So really cool stuff as well. And then we have something new in YouTube.
Exactly. So last week, I believe, we at Microsoft launched a new channel all about Teams. So we're going to show videos that demonstrate different features, different types of apps, how do you start, and so forth and so on, all geared towards trying to help you understand what Teams are, what do they have to offer, and how you can use them for different scenarios in your work.
Yeah, really good. And this is good to have an isolated kind of a Microsoft Teams channel as well, which is dedicating for Teams topics for sure. So even though, of course, the technologies are overlapping, but Teams is for sure one of the most important applications what we have currently. And it's growing so fast. So people are using more and more Teams, which is really, really cool. Now, the next one in here is from David Ramalho, create folders on SharePoint document library from CSV. So basically, how would I automate creation of folder structure in a SharePoint site using a CSV file? So really nice way of using PnP PowerShell, and then read the CSV file, and then based on the naming or the content of the CSV file, execute and create some structures in the SharePoint sites. And PnP PowerShell is for sure the easiest way to do that because it has such a huge coverage. I think it's more than 600 commandlets nowadays, which is just mind-blowing. So really, really cool. Then let's move in here.
Yes, we have a new article from Leon Armstrong who writes about a new trigger that we have for Power Automate flows, which is able to start a flow when a file is classified by a model in SharePoint syntax. right? So that gives you the ability to start a whole flow whenever there's a change coming from syntax on a doc, and allow you basically that way to automate the way you handle a document or a process.
Yeah, absolutely. The SharePoint syntax is kind of an advanced premium feature, which does require additional licenses, but it actually does a lot of automation then for your document management systems. So we're not going to deep dive on that today, but something to check out for sure. Then we had a blog post from Siddharth Vakhasia around create your first adaptive card extension with SPFX. So creating for the Viva connection, you are implementing adaptive card extensions, which are ACs. So creating ACs with SPFX. So a lot of words on those abbreviations, right? But basically walking through how do I create an ACE, how does it actually work, and how it's being exposed, how do I do debugging and see it alive, and how do I evolve that. So really good stuff from Siddharth for sure. Thank you for that. Then we have something from
Liam Cleary. Right, so Liam is very experienced in the space of security, and this time around he has a new article about security in Power Automate, right? So what are the different options, the licenses, permissions, limitations, restrictions? What are the things that you can control and tweak to basically ensure that the environment is set up the way you want it to? And with you want it to, we often mean the governments or the rules, the policies that a company might have, right? So Liam goes on through different options and knobs and settings that are available to you in Power Automate.
Yep, really good stuff for sure, and a great reference to check those things out. Then we had a blog post from Carmen Yuseviv, Teams UI Toolkit for Makers, an introduction. And Teams UI Toolkit is something which is available in the format of, what is it? The graphics. Figma files, yes, exactly. As a controls, there's reusable controls, there's samples and all of that available. But basic idea here is the having consistent look and feel for your solution, regardless how do you build the solution. So having a UI practices and design guidance available, how your solution should look like, and that's going to help on, of course, using then the solution because it's familiar. The look and feel is familiar for the end users as well. And Carmen is watching and walking through as an introduction blog post on what's available, what does it actually mean, and how to get started, and how to access the UI toolkit in Figma, or how to access the sandbox. What is it? The playground. Playground? Is it playground? It's playground. Anyway, yes,
it is.
That's what it is. Moving on here from Appy.
Yes, correct. We have a new article from Albert-Jan Schot, also known as Appy, about how can you use CLI for Microsoft 365, which is missing there, to see if any account in your AAD has been pawned using the Have I Been Pawned service, right? So there is this service on the internet managed and built by Troy Hunt, who really keeps track of all data leaks and different accounts that are in there. And with CLI for Microsoft 365, we recently included an update, new command that allows you to check, basically have an easy way to automate that, to check whether that given account was pawned in any or was included in any of the known leaks, right? So at a company, and I guess like this is the whole premise of this article, is how you can enumerate all accounts that you have in your AAD and check them against have I been pawned, and then based on that you could have send people adaptive card or reminder or email, build a report to basically keep track of, hey, your account was included in these leaks, if maybe you should think about changing the password or do some action on it.
Really, really cool stuff, and super useful for sure for administrators to have something like this running and schedule your task for once a week or double checking the situation. Really, really cool stuff for sure. Now, then we have Peter Wenstra and his SharePaints blog post. Handle unmanaged changes made to tables in a default solution for Power Platform. So it talks about the different options in here and how to deal with those situations. So again, really detailed and a nice blog post from Peter with the screenshots and all of that, like he usually does. So really, really cool stuff from him. And he actually plugged another one as well, which was
disable editing of your production apps and flows in Power Platform. And this is important one, right? Because like typically what we see, or what you would think of it, is that if you build a flow or a Power App, it's very much meant for, like, you build that as a user, a person, and you build it primarily to automate your own work or simplify your own work. But what we see a lot in practice is that these automations or these apps you build are so cool that they are quickly evolve and travel. And before you know, it's a thing for you and your colleagues, and then you and your team, and before you know, it's half of your org running them. Right, and at that point, you might say, well, I want to share it with others, but they don't want anybody else to fiddle with it.
Yeah.
So Peter shows how you can ensure that anybody else will not change it or break it for others. Right. So show you that what are the different options you have to ensure that your apps cannot be edited.
Yep. Really, really good stuff. Good amount of settings, and as we are introducing new settings here and there, it's really good to have this blog post on explaining what those settings are, why do they exist, and explain the value out of them. And then as a last article or a video, which is the Microsoft Graph to monitor identity and security from Paolo Pialorsi from PSUS, and this really talks about the operations around identity management and monitoring, and for the security side as well. So basically, what are those different things and settings which we have available in the Microsoft Graph for different operations? And of course, a lot of these operations are then also available in the Microsoft Graph PowerShell commandlets, which is completely understandable. So you can easily do scripting and automation, checking things, double checking settings, and all of that stuff as well. So there's so many APIs in Microsoft Graph nowadays, which is awesome. Coverage is growing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, exactly. It's just one single place for developers and admins to learn to be able to automate and program anything in 365. Brilliant, right?
Absolutely. So what's happening today or this week? Anything interesting?
I'm back at work. Last week I was sick, so I basically missed almost the whole week. So now I'm back. I was like, hey, there are quite a few things that piled up on my to-do list. So I'm getting back to work. Yeah, just a few things. So getting back to that, we had another release of CLI from Microsoft 365. The latest release included a new command for updating planner tasks. Right, so we offered quite a few options there, like easy way to reference a task by its title and be able to update the assignment users, move it around buckets and plans and all that. So all that is available there.
Yep.
We're working on more commands for CLI for Microsoft 365, especially around managing Microsoft 365 apps. And other than that, there are quite a few things that are starting to move. How one of them is an interesting premise that, like, if you look at Microsoft 365, right, we have a lot of resources available. We have samples, tutorials, docs, learn, videos, community, like we have a lot. And the challenging part is not that we miss a resource. Like imagine you want to build an app, right? Challenge is that we not that we miss a resource. The challenge is to find the up-to-date resource that shows exactly that thing, right? So I came up with the idea, like, what if we would offer quick reference cards, like basically a single page that outlines the different resources and links in single place, so that you don't need to go to internet and search and
like
hope that you find the right things
which we used to have at some point.
Well, it's not really a recipe, right? Because it doesn't teach you to follow the exact
Sure, but its references.
Because we explained them already.
Yeah, of course.
But basically trying to gather in single place all resources relevant for the particular type of app, right? So I shared on social 2 recipes that I already built and asking basically like, hey, if you had this, the next time you need to build an app, would that help? Do we miss something? Where we can improve? What are the things would you like to see? So if you catch it, and maybe we can include a link to one of these posts to basically I would really appreciate everybody's opinion on it. Is that something that you would like to see us at Microsoft and maybe even community to spend some time on that? Or do you say like, wait, I already have my own way to go about it. I know my research. I don't need that, which is also fine. So we'd love to learn more about that.
That would be certainly really good to have this kind of an M365 wide collection of, hey, you're looking into doing X and Y and Z. Have a look on these resources. Oh, you're looking into doing here. Have a look on these resources. So having that kind of catalog for sure would help. So now I understand.
Yeah, and also keep that up to date. Keep that up to date over time.
That's always the challenge.
As things evolve, like which SDK, because then you can find a sample from 2 years back, which might show the right approach, but maybe the SDK is out of date. And when you update an SDK, then you need to update some other things. And before you know, you spend the whole day trying to run a sample, which you might or might not need, right? So we're also trying to address that gap.
Absolutely. Makes perfect sense. Really, really good stuff.
How about you?
Let's see. A lot of meetings this week. So we're having this chat when we started. So one of my days starts at 7 a.m. and ends at 11 p.m. So of course during the daytime there will be breaks, but it's the globalization, the beauty of having teams in China and India and in Redmond. So and then trying to cross the schedules between all of them. It's like
asynchronous work. Like you still gotta reinvent asynchronous work.
Absolutely. And I think it's more about empowering people to make their own decisions and the teams to make their own decisions so that they feel comfortable of doing that without always having the blessing between the more senior people, whatever they are. So. But it's every now and then, for example, some of the meetings are with partners. So you actually want to have that partner meeting because it's important that you are, as a Microsoft, especially showing interest towards larger partners, that you actually want to hear what they need to be having. So all of that stuff. So, but I guess the most important one this week will be the new version of SharePoint Framework 1.14 beta is now coming this week. It's probably coming out before actually this is released, this video and podcast. So let's see.
Well, depending when you're watching this, it might have already been available, right?
And now it's already really close to 1.14, the final version. Then the release candidate is coming probably next week, and then pretty soon there's going to be GA. So that's good, getting that.
Woohoo! So. Curious. What are the top 2 things that are included in there?
There's top 2 would be the improvements on the ACE caching, so ACE adaptive card performance, and there's a caching capabilities related on data. So basically storing information more easily in the card level and then refreshing that after the initial loading. So there's kind of data improvements on that. And then the second one is the new template. So basically, as we're creating a new solution, there will be more structured and more comprehensive sample related on theming support in Microsoft Teams and the background support for SharePoint and all of that stuff. So you can choose to have a super simplified web part output, or you can have a more complex, which is showing all of the theming support and all of that stuff as well. So
cool. And I guess when we release 1.14, we will also include the guidance how you can take it or leverage these new features in projects you have already built in the past, right?
Yeah, maybe. But yeah, so the intention
and here
is
I hope you would say yes, and then like, and now we need to do it because we said so.
Exactly. So
didn't fall for that.
That is absolutely the intention. So have the guidance on the theming and the background colors and all of that. That guidance actually exists already in the docs, but it's again scattered here and there. So having an output from the Yeoman generator, which is by default immediately supporting theming support and the accessibility support in the teams is good, rather than you have to worry about how do I get this stuff done. So
exactly, and actually the worst part is that everybody needs to do the same work because it's a baseline for everybody.
Exactly.
Like you want to know when you want to be able to respond to things. The way you respond to it is different, but you want to be able to know at least, right? And that part is exactly the same for everybody because you run in Teams and SharePoint and Viva, and it's the common thing for everybody. So makes perfect sense.
Absolutely.
Cool.
But cool. I think that's it for this one. So we'll be back again within a week. So thank you everybody for listening, watching, and please remember #PnP Weekly. So to inform us on anything what you're building or creating. So thank you for that. Thank you, Waldek. We'll be back.
Thank you, Vesa. Bye.
Bye-bye.